What's going on, everyone? So today I thought I'd make a video about what I think some of the main problems Joust has currently as far as the game mode is concerned. So fair warning, this video is going to be more about my opinion on the state of Joust from my experience rather than my other type of videos that are more fact-based. But with that out of the way, let's start by talking about how Hi-Rez / developers sort of view Joust. So it's no surprise that Hi-Rez bases all of their updates and changes primarily in Conquest and Arena, as these are the biggest populated game modes as well as where the money is with Conquest when considering things like the SPL, for example. Now here is an old picture of the populated game modes and how they were spread out within 1 week. And as you can see, the 3 game modes at the top is Arena, Joust, then Conquest. But do keep in mind, the reason Conquest isn't the top of the list is because this graph illustrates the total amount of games played, and seeing as Arena is a short game mode as well as Joust when comparing to Conquest, we can probably assume Conquest has more of a player base than what it says. But my point in bringing all these stats up is that Hi-Rez more or less puts all of their eggs into Conquest and Arena, where all the other game modes are on the back burner, which is why Joust doesn't get the love and attention I think it deserves. Like, think about it. What gods have been the most broken in Joust? Few of the gods that should come to mind is Achilles and Neja, but there are countless others. Yet for how many seasons and patches have these gods not received their targeted nerfs to bring them down from S tier? Like, Achilles has been dominant for years. And to top it off, they've been shown to do game mode specific buffs / nerfs, so they've already found a solution, yet they still haven't implemented these buffs and nerfs to obvious gods that need them. Also, it took them basically 2 years to finally fix the starter item problem that was plaguing Joust. Now compare it to anything else that's broken in Conquest, like Ravana for example, where they implement nerfs a patch or 2 later after people complain. Now of course they nerfed him like 3 or 4 times for him to finally not be disgusting, but the fact they try and fix the issues in Conquest right away kind of shows you what they're prioritizing, not that anyone is really surprised. And I'm not trying to bash Hi-Rez, but I think for how popular Joust is right now, I think they should be implementing more patches targeted for this game mode rather than a patch here and there. With that being said, they seem to be updating Joust more than they ever have in recent memory. But unfortunately, when you change things as drastic as starter items, XP and gold changes, and complete map changes, there's going to be things that need to be addressed in terms of balancing. But overall, in my opinion, it doesn't seem Hi-Rez really cares that much, seeing as the issues they need to be balanced is pretty simple. Which segues into my next problem that stems down from this, and that is the starter item problem and the map problem. So let's start with the easy one, and that is the map. So there have been 3 total Joust maps, and currently we are on the Season 3 Chinese map. But with the recent addition of the Season 7 Jade Dragon map, they've added a lot of things to help with the pace of Joust games. For example, they added more XP camps, they made the map bigger, and they increased the size of the jungle area where the Bull Demon King is. And in my opinion, I think this is the best Joust map. But with Hi-Rez flipping back and forth between all these maps, it makes the pacing of the game pretty bad. For instance, the current map we are on only has 4 buff camps, compared to the 8 on the other one, which means there are times where there's literally nothing to do but try and force fights, or just sit around and wait for the other team to make a mistake. Additionally, the map crams 6 players into the relatively small map, where on the other one it's not a problem. Ideally, the Season 3 Jade Dragon map should be used as the duel map, as it adequately holds 2 players, whereas the Season 7 Jade Dragon map more adequately holds 6 players on the map. Now of course they change maps every so often to sort of spice up the game mode, as to not make it stale for the Joust community. But the issue is that just simply changing the maps is kind of a lazy way to appease the community. Now I might get a little flack for this, but if you compare these changes to the ones they give to Arena and Conquest, they put way more effort into them. For example, each season, Conquest almost always gets an overhaul in terms of mechanics, the map, and the aesthetics. Similarly, Arena gets aesthetic changes pretty regularly, on top of the cool and fun mechanics like the Fire Giant one that has been recently added. But what does Joust get? A map change every 6 months. I feel like adding new and additional elements, along with cool aesthetic changes to the already determined maps I stated earlier, fixes the potential of stale gameplay they would be worried about, instead of just changing the maps for example. But ultimately, Season 7 Joust map should stay to Joust, and Season 3 Joust map should stay to the duel map. And to appease the Joust community, add cool, flavorful things similar to Conquest and Arena, or something along that vein. And to cover all my bases, I understand that high-res may have other issues preventing them to put more attention on these other game modes like Joust, but with how popular Joust is, I think it's more than earned its keep to have more attention put into it. Now let's move into starter items. If you've been playing the game mode and buying the starter items, you've probably noticed that a majority of the time you get full built considerably early, around the level 15 to 16 area. And of course this is keeping in mind that you aren't dominating, but even then it still takes a very long time to get your starters upgraded. Probably around the 30-minute mark is when you usually get your starter items upgraded, and by that time you most likely accrued over 3,000 gold. This is a problem. With Joust not normally lasting 30 minutes plus, it shouldn't take you that long to get to that point. Similar to game modes like Arena, it's relatively short, lasting right around 15 to 20 minutes give or take. And with the recent changes to XP and gold dispersal, it makes complete sense why you're getting a hell of a lot more gold while your levels are lacking. If we take a look back at 10.5, we can see they changed XP and gold changes where they dramatically reduced XP while upping the gold spooling by 1, which was intended by high-res. The reasoning behind this is that it was taking too long to get the builds online, which was fair at the time. However, with the reintroduction of starter items, you're now getting the amount of gold to be full built at around level 15, and seeing as the starter items in Joust only allow to be upgraded at level 20, you're rarely getting any upgraded starter items by the time the game ends. Now in order for them to fix this, they need to fix the XP and gold accrual systems by either reverting the changes or increasing the XP you get from minions and buff camps to make it commensurate with the gold amounts you get. Either that or they change the level requirements for starter items, but I feel like that would be a weird path to go down. And seeing as high-res seems to want this game mode to be relatively short comparatively, it's probably better to revert/buff the amount of XP so you don't have a late game dilemma about your build. And this perfectly segues into the build path problems you have due to this issue. So in a regular game, you usually buy your starter items early into the game as it has the most bang for your buck in terms of stats. However, the longer the game goes, the less potent the starter items are. But the good thing about this is that you can upgrade the starter items into having greater stats later into the game. But you can't really do this anymore in Joust. So what do you do late game seeing as you have plentiful gold to buy other items? Well, do you sell it for another item to get a bigger spike to have more impact on your game? Or do you wait for the potential that you might go super late game and have an even larger spike with your upgraded starter? This is more or less the dilemma that I'm talking about, as you have to make a risk where you get a bigger spike by selling your starter item and buying a different item, but if it does go late game, your opponents could ultimately win if they keep their starter items and upgrade it. And trust me, you absolutely don't want this to happen if they somehow have Warrior's Axe and eventually upgrade it into Sundering Axe, as I still think this is the best starter item early and late game in Joust. We are just lucky that you can't get to level 20 earlier, which could be an issue if they do fix this. But moving back into it, ultimately you can upgrade your relics or buy power pots with the amount of gold you have, but around level 15 to 17, should you really have enough to buy a 3k pot, but not enough to buy an upgraded starter item? Now of course this applies to a generalized majority of games, but with a few tweaks I feel Joust would not only feel better to play for the community, but also for high-res. But sadly, like I said earlier, I don't think they put too much attention on this game mode. Now there are other problems in Joust entailing things like team comp issues in terms of queuing and god synergies, but for now I'll leave you with that. Now this is my first video I think I've done where I've given my critical opinion on the state of Smite. So please, if you have an opinion on the matter, or feel like I may have missed an issue, or think I'm completely wrong, let me know in the comment section. Also, leave a like if you enjoy these type of videos, as I can make more in the future. But with all that being said, thank you guys for watching.